Scheldeprijs is one of my favorite races on the calendar. You might not have heard of it. It's a small Wednesday race held between the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. I like it because there's such a random smattering of gear. You have two distinct groups of bikes and tech. The riders and teams who are here to win it go full aero. Deep wheels, aero helmets, they're all in. The other group are teams and riders who are here just to test out their gear for Paris-Roubaix. Now while you won't see the fat tires, you'll see the endurance bikes, you'll see the strange cockpit setups. We've even seen some prototype suspension designs. Let's take a look at what we found here in the team buses.
The biggest gear news was Ian Stannard's hydraulic rear suspension system, with an automatic tuning system built right into the bike. The high ride system can work with a remote switch on the handlebars, but Stannard raced it in auto mode. It has a 6-axis accelerometer gyroscope that is built into the frame, and that senses changes in the road surface and adjusts the suspension accordingly, from fully locked out to fully open. This year there were a few disc bikes at Scheldeprijs, primarily endurance bikes as you'd expect for Roubaix, but also a few aero bikes like Specialized Venge. Cannondale Dropack had two Super 6 Evos, normal road race bikes with this, and then a Synapse endurance bike that was ready for Roubaix. Cannondale first raced with this at the Ruta del Sol and has had at least 2 riders on disc at most races since then. For Roubaix, all Cannondale riders will use the Synapse, with a mix of disc and rim bikes. While going up a size in tubulars is pretty standard for Roubaix, one Lotto Soudal rider had another width change for the Hell of the North: his handlebars. Now normally, Marcel Seberg runs the extremely narrow 38mm handlebars. For Roubaix he bumps way up to 40mm. Most riders don't change their handlebars, but they do make full use of the width at this time of the year, adding handlebar tape closer to the stem, running sprinter shifters right at the stem, or even adding on brake levers. While the handlebar top brake levers are a bit of a throwback to the past, Quickstep Zednek Stibar had both the brake levers and sprint shifters up top. Team Sky's Christian Nies normally runs his Di2 climbing switch on the back of his handlebar near the stem, but for Roubaix and for Scheldeprijs, he wraps his tape right up to the stem, so he had a bare climbing switch affixed to the side of his K-Edge Garmin mount. This way he can shift his rear derailleur in both directions with his right thumb when riding on the tops. Endurance bikes are different from race bikes in a few ways. They have longer wheelbases, and partly because of this, they were the first style of bike to incorporate disc brakes. But endurance bikes are almost always considerably taller on the front end than race bikes, which presents a challenge for racers who like to be long and low on their machines. Riders, mechanics, and brands have a range of fixes. One is to use a smaller frame than normal, and then just use a longer stem to get to the desired position. Forget just removing spacers. Many riders take off the frame's top cap, exposing the bearing beneath. Hashtag slam that stem. Aggressively angled stems are another option to get the handlebar low on a tall head tube. And finally, there is the build it for racers in the first place option. Sometimes this means pro race only frames that aren't sold to the public, such as the direct mount Roubaix frame set that Tom Boonen and Peter Sagan are racing. This is most definitely not something Specialized has in its online catalog. Finally, it all comes down to where the rubber meets the road, the tires. Teams have long held special wheel sets and tubulars in reserve for just one race a year, Paris-Roubaix. Handmade tubulars by Dugas and FMB are quite popular with teams, as are Continental's relatively newer competition RBX. In the last 2 years we saw not only 28mm but even 30mm tires being raced. The thinking is, more volume equals more suspension, more comfort, and, some might argue, more efficiency on the nastiest of cobble sectors. The limiter in the past has always been the tire clearance inside the rim brake calipers. Cannondale Dropack head mechanic Jeff Brown held a supply of 10-year-old inexpensive Shimano calipers on hand just because their long reach allowed big, fat 30mm tubulars. So this year, with the advent of disc brakes kicking down the door on tire width, Cannondale has chosen to go narrower for its tires? Brown said last year the riders had 30mm tires, and afterwards the guys complained that it was too cushy. Brown said they didn't like the feel and felt that they didn't need it, so this year they're going back to 28mm. So from deep aero wheels to handlebar brake levers, Scheldeprijs again delivers on the weirdest collection of tech you will ever see in a single-day road race, and it's all thanks to Paris-Roubaix. Stay tuned to BikeRadar for more Roubaix tech.